Hey, it's me, Colin Moriarty, proprietor of the podcast network Colin's Last Stand, co-host of the mega-popular PlayStation podcast Sacred Symbols, and also co-host of another show that I think you may enjoy, a retro and nostalgia-themed romp called Knockback. I co-host the show with my brother, Emmy Award-winning Sesame Workshop lead animator and character designer Dagan Moriarty. And we post a new episode each and every week, celebrating all that mattered most to us growing up, from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and beyond. On one episode, we'll talk about an old video game, and on another, a classic movie. And another yet, stories from our past, delving into all things old school. If you want to tickle those nostalgic muscles within you, remember the glory days of years gone, and have a lot of laughs while doing it, join us for Knockback, with new episodes posted each and every Thursday on your favorite podcast service.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Waveform podcast. Happy holidays. We're your hosts. I'm Marques Brownlee.
And I'm Andrew Manganelli.
And it's right after Christmas right now. We're going to do a sort of a wrap-up, an end of the year, technically end of the decade, but also some people say 2021 is the beginning of the new decade. But
also, we just started our podcast this year, so end of the decade makes it sound
it makes it sound really grand,
more impressive.
But it is the end of it's the last podcast of 2019. And so we're going to be diving into the nitty-gritty of like the two big videos and concepts that ended our year, which was the blind smartphone camera test of 2019.
Yeah.
The big one. And the
Everyone's
2019,
favorite,
and the smartphone awards, which was the last big video. And since we're spending this whole episode going over these two episodes, I think I would suggest if you're listening to this and you haven't seen those two videos yet, go ahead and check them out. There will be spoilers, of course, because we're going to talk about all that stuff here. They're not just two of the most looked forward to videos of the year, but honestly probably two of the most fun. So check them out. We start planning them like as soon as phones start coming out
like
during the year.
I feel like August, right before smartphone season, we're like, well with what we know, what would be your choice right now? And then every month is like, has anything changed? And
it keeps evolving, yeah. And the blind smartphone test is just, it's chaos every time.
Oh,
so we'll dive into both. But before we get into those, how was your holiday?
It was great. It was nice and relaxing. Yeah.
You get anything good?
Yeah. Actually, I did get something tech related from Claire. I have a smartwatch now.
Nice. And what is that? It's Circle Face.
Garmin Vivoactive 3. So I think this is actually last year's model, but they went like crazy on sale.
The Garmin's
like
are always
$100.
They're always really good with the fitness tracking and
that
sort of thing.
That's definitely what she got it for. Like we go hiking a lot and I go climbing, and that's way more what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
I haven't really gotten much time to try it though yet.
Kevin O'Leary would be so angry,
even more upset than an Apple Watch.
So mad.
I think. But yeah, I'm super excited to try it, and I look forward to it.
Nice.
Did you get anything good or give anything good?
I was given some good tech gifts. I'm always the guy you expect a tech gift from. I think it was just there was a really great tweet from Dieter from The Verge.
Okay,
who was like, tweet me your photos of some accessories or gadgets you got that are powered by micro USB. And I didn't realize that, but there's still so many things powered by. I got a little white noise machine because I always I sleep with like a fan on because that's like the best version of it to me, but. Every white noise machine you can buy is powered by micro USB. It's hilarious. So, shout out to everyone who got a micro USB powered gadget this holiday season.
Yeah, I feel like I found a great like Secret Santa party gift that's tech related and actually useful. See, that's the thing is
that's tough.
If you do Secret Santa, do you want to give something useful or do you want to give something like totally absurd? So
I like to give a good tech thing.
You can get the Google Home Mini, the non-Nest version, for $25 on like Best Buy or evering now because they're
always on sale.
They're just trying to get rid of it because it's Nest Mini or Nest Home, whatever now. $25 might be kind of an expensive Secret Santa, but it's not totally unheard of, and it's a great little gift for people.
You can turn a random person's home into a smart home. With $25 in a small box.
$25. It's hard to beat that. I think. Yeah.
All right, good shout out to that. All right, I think we just jump right in. Let's get right into the big ones. We'll do blind smartphone camera test first.
Yeah.
Okay, so for those who are unfamiliar with the concept, the blind smartphone camera test is this big concept where, every smartphone that comes out this year has a camera, and they're all pretty good at different things. We all kind of know the best ones are going to be the Pixel and the iPhone and the Samsung phones and the Huawei phones, but why not just put them all against each other and put them online and let people vote against them, but don't tell them which one's which, and see what people vote for without knowing what they're voting for. And so because we have a huge bracket of 16 phones, it sort of removes all the bias, and it's just exciting. It's like a March Madness style.
It's March Madness.
Like first round, whoever gets the most votes moves on. There's always upsets, always crazy things. The first year we ever did it was last year, and of course there's these crazy upsets.
Last year was kind of nutty. Yeah.
It was wild. I think that both the Pixels we put in and both the iPhones we put in all got knocked out in the first round, which is insane. So we tried to be, I don't know, I don't want to say scientific. We're not very scientific about it, but
very opposite of scientific. I think.
Yeah, it's a fun thing, but we try to be consistent and include like, oh, let's see, this is things you typically take photos of. Like, it's going to be an Instagram photo, sorry. So you want to have like a picture of a person, maybe a landscape, a sky in the background, stuff like that.
Yeah. And then we like take that and give it a couple extra little variables where a phone might be able to prevail over another phone, because so many phones are so good now. Like when you're seeing them on social media sites, it's hard to tell what they are. So like, I think, for example, I believe the first one was a picture of you, but we had all these colorful chairs we put in the background. So you had like great dynamic range with the clouds in the background, and you had all different colors in the background. So it kind of gives you a couple different things to look at and observe, and then pick your favorite.
I think a lot of people are just shotgunning it, just like, which one looks better? 2 seconds, move on. Not even 2 seconds.
But I mean, when you scroll through Instagram,
that's how fast you look at a photo.
That's the user experience,
Yeah, so that's what we did. We put it on Instagram, we put it on Twitter, and we got our results again. And again, spoiler, we're just going to talk about all the stuff that happened in the videos. Galaxy Note 10 Plus was the winner in the finals over the Samsung Galaxy S10e. So we did have some consistency. We had 2 Samsung phones making it to the end this year, and a lot of interesting stuff happening in between. So where do we even start?
Also, before that, we all guessed. We did our own brackets. Or I don't think Brandon was here, but Vin picked the winner.
He got
Vin's
the Note
only
10.
One.
Yeah.
I had a Note 10, but it was the Mi Note 10. I was really hoping 103 megapixels would pull through, but I was very wrong.
First round exit with the eventual winner there. Yeah, I forgot what I picked, but I was not. I didn't have a good time either. It's tough to pick what you think people will vote for. Okay, so first round, there's a results list. We'll put this in the show notes, where someone was nice enough to compile before I even did. So when the video came out, all of the rounds, all of the winners, and the percents that each phone won by. So you can see what photo you voted for if you look back, and you can see how much it might have won or lost by. And when you look back at this, there's actually some pretty interesting findings.
Yeah, I think everyone watches the video and sees what the 2 winners are, or the 2 finalists are, and just neglects all the other rounds. And there's some, like, I remember in round 2, all of us texting each other at night after we went home and be like, oh my God. Like, or round 1, I think the big one, round 1, first matchup was OnePlus 7T versus Asus Zenfone 6.
Zenfone 6.
And it's like, I remember us all thinking like, we don't know the Zenfone camera that well. We haven't used it too long. OnePlus we know really well, and OnePlus has done pretty good in these. So, and then Zenfone just destroyed it.
Okay, Zenfone 6, in my opinion, took the best photo in the first round.
Yeah,
better than the Pixel, better than the iPhone,
amazing.
Better than all the other phones in the first round. So if you go back and look at it, it's crazy because I'm going to go back and try to tell you what letter it is, but B.
It's B, yeah.
It's B. It took the best photo, in my opinion. The most balanced, the best colors, best dynamic range, and detail was solid. So it crushed the OnePlus 7T in the first round. Then it came up against the Huawei Mate 30 Pro, kind of what you'd consider a 1 seed, like a favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it won last year. It's hard not to rank it up
the Mate
there.
20 Pro won last year. It lost in that round by 10%.
And that was the closest matchup out of any round in the entire bracket.
Yeah. So that, I think, was one of the notables that impressed me the most. And I'd be curious to see if it didn't have to face the Mate 30 Pro. Maybe if it was in a different side of the bracket, could it have beat Samsung? Could it have made it to the finals?
I would be interested in putting it up against... So what's funny is we after the first round, took photos with every single phone after this, and then just didn't use the ones we didn't need. So we do have a photo of the Roadster and could put it against the Note 10.
Yeah,
I would be super interested to see how it did versus the Note 10. I think both of us agreed we still think Note 10 would win.
I think the Note would have beaten it still, but I think I learned a lot about the Zenfone 6, how good that phone is, and we'll talk about that more later in the show too, in the smartphone awards. But that thing flips around and it becomes your selfie camera. So in theory, that's the best selfie camera in the game right now.
Yeah, I don't think a selfie camera could really beat that if it's doing that well on its main and it's also a selfie.
Yeah, so big props to that. Here's another thing. The biggest victory margin of any of the rounds was your Mi Note 10 losing in the first round to the S10e.
The 103 megapixel phone losing.
The thing is, we wanted to do a very consistent job of just pointing, tapping, and shooting in every single round. And the one thing that we didn't do that with was the Mi Note 10, where we pointed, switched to 108 megapixel mode, and then shot. Just because we're using that phone because of the 108 megapixel sensor. So we give that a shot, but I think most people will just use pixel binning mode most of the time. So it did not the best job of exposing, and it was a much darker photo, and we know how that goes.
It might be the worst photo in round one, and that's against the FlexPy. It's like down there with the FlexPy.
I'm going to say the FlexPy was worse.
Yeah.
Because the FlexPy both underexposed and overexposed.
That was the best comment on Twitter.
Yeah.
I would say on like Instagram stories, you could probably put the Note 10 next to FlexPy because you're getting a compressed and then halved compress in stories. So like FlexPy, when you look at the full res of that, you were like
this is trash.
Yeah, this was the iPhone 1. It was very bad.
Yeah, I thought about including the original iPhone in here, and we opted to do the FlexPy instead as the gag phone. And I think the original iPhone could have maybe won a round if it was up against the Mi Note 10
or Mi Note. Yeah.
So anyway, that was another interesting fact. I got a nice email I want to talk about, and I'm not going to say who it's from, but it came from someone at Google who was very involved with the Pixel camera, who had some interesting words about how basically this test could be improved to be maybe more scientific. I'm using air quotes, so scientific, like we're not trying to make a super scientific test, but the information was interesting because one of the things he claims is that through all of their testing with Google's camera, they know that people don't actually tap on the subject of their photo most of the time. They just open the camera app and hit the shutter. And I thought that was fascinating. Do you tap on the subject?
Yeah, when we were reading this email, I remember you saying that, and I was like, that's really interesting. And then I thought to myself, like, who are people I know that I wouldn't consider like smartphone enthusiasts that take a lot of pictures? And
Exactly.
It's my mom and it's Claire's mom.
Okay.
And when I thought about it, both of them tap faces. That's
do.
like something that they both do. So
okay. I asked some people, and I had a mixed bag. Some people said, no, I never tap. I just take the shutter. And some people said, yeah, if it's close to the camera, then you want to make sure you nail the focus on the foreground and not the background. So you sort of help it out by tapping the subject. But other than that, like
first of all, he's the one with the actual statistics.
Right.
He knows better than we do.
Yeah, that's why I thought it was so fascinating.
So yeah, we have a much smaller sample size, but I could definitely see like if somebody was just picking the camera up and everything looked in focus at first, why tap anything?
Right.
But I guess with a picture closer up, you have more of a chance of the phone assuming something else is in focus, and then you have to fix it.
Yeah.
So maybe people tap more on something like that, but it makes sense that there's probably a lot of people who don't tap.
Here's the reason I tap to focus. I have a darker skin tone, and every time you tap to expose on, like, when I'm taking a picture of my hand or of my face or something like that, it always adjusts the exposure to get my face in best exposure.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of these, if you just point it at me and take the photo, my face will be underexposed and the sky behind me will look great. So that's why we made a point for every single one to tap my face so that it got my face, because it's a photo of my face.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it would blow out the background, and we got some interesting results as a result of that. But I would be curious if we didn't tap on my face on those photos, how different might it have gone?
I would be interested if we put two people in with totally different skin tones and didn't tap a face.
Oh,
like,
that would be,
there are just so many variables, and we get it. People have sent us a million variables, but no matter what we do, we're not going to be able to combat all of the different variables.
Here's an idea I really like, though.
Yeah.
Pool play.
Yeah.
And if we had maybe some more days to do this, because we were really crunching up against the end of the year, but for those unfamiliar, you probably know what pool play is, but I'll just explain. Right now, it's March Madness style. One game, whoever gets the most votes moves on.
Yeah.
And so it's have exciting. So many variables. It's so exciting, and that's what really makes it good. But if we wanted to make it, here comes the air quotes again, more scientific, I guess what we would do is we would have sort of pool play where there's like 3 or 4 phones in a pool, and then they would all compete against each other in multiple rounds, and the winner of the most rounds would advance out of that pool.
Yeah, so pretty much we would, I'm assuming, initially seed the phones how we think they should do. And then each pool would have, like, the first pool would have, like, the first seed, the fourth or fifth seed.
You'd have, like, the iPhone 11 Pro,
seed.
and then you'd have, like, the OnePlus 7T, the Zenfone, and the FlexPi. And then they'd all have several different photos to compete against each other to rack up votes to really definitely get the winner.
Yeah, and then the winner of that, based on the winner of each pool, you get a correct seeding out to go into the bracket play.
Right.
So then pretty much you're quote-unquote guaranteeing that a good phone doesn't have a hard matchup in the first round because they earned their matchup already.
Right, so we wouldn't be guessing which one we think would be more powerful.
So it's another thing that's like,
sure,
it's a little more fair, but it's still really not fair at all. This thing was never supposed to be fair.
It was just I love the idea last year, and that's why we did it again. And I think maybe next year we'll mix it up a bit. Maybe we'll do like a portrait mode thing or a night mode or throw in some other ideas. But I had a lot of fun with it.
So yeah, pool play sounds great in terms of fairness. That was actually Renee Ritchie who said that, and I can't believe neither of us thought of that because we've both played Ultimate for so many years, and that is like literally how you play every weekend is pool play into bracket play. So thanks, Renee. He was on Twit TV while everyone else was complaining about it. He was actually giving useful information. So
appreciate that.
We appreciate you, Renee.
All right.
So then in terms of fairness, though, we have another thing that like people keep mentioning, which is compressed photos on social media.
Right.
So like this is the one that irks me the most because we talked about this last year, and just like, first of all, I think my main gripe is that sure, we could put this on Flickr, but who's going on Flickr every day and like finding photos? Like,
I personally want every photo to be uploaded in the highest resolution possible, uncompressed, so that it takes a couple minutes for me to download it, but I can appreciate it in its glory, and I can see what you had for lunch on Instagram in high res. No, this is the one thing is like, oh, well, if you really want us to see which one's better, why don't you upload them in high resolution so that we can pixel peep and go back and forth and then pick a winner? And the point of that was, this isn't scientific. This is where most people see the most photos in their life. Think about that. In your life, Twitter and Instagram and social media.
I would argue that 99% of the pictures you see are, I guess, Reddit also, but like Instagram and Twitter is where most people see their photos, and they're compressed. So when I kept seeing needs to be fair, I think the only way we could make this totally fair is if we found the 5 people who had like perfectly calibrated like 4+K monitors, and then
displays.
We could like think about, even if we did this high res, what if somebody's looking on like an iPhone XR or something with a smaller resolution, or if they're looking on Samsung or Huawei that has like its vivid colors on its display. Like, nobody is looking at these photos with a perfectly calibrated display and being able to see exactly what they are. So we're putting it in a natural environment, and that's how people are voting. And that's totally okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much the point. Some people will have this on their iPhone. Some people will have this on their Pixel or on their Samsung phone. All their levels will be different. Some people will have a Pro Display XDR, and they'll vote on Twitter on their desktop. All of this stuff gets counted, and all of this stuff contributes to a winner. So I don't mind that. I think we're going to keep doing it that way.
But the benefit of doing it the same way is, I think we heard something about Twitter's potentially offering either higher quality or full res photos.
Okay,
soon.
This was announced while we were in the middle of our photos, so we didn't really want to stop and start over. But Twitter, I think, either starting now or starting at the beginning of 2020, is going to allow you to view full-size uncompressed JPEGs in the image viewer. So in the preview window, it'll still be small, but when you click to open it, a JPEG will be uncompressed and much higher quality and better looking. So maybe the Smartphone Awards will benefit from that. Yeah. The blind camera test will benefit from that next year.
Yeah, which is awesome, because then you get it on a platform that people actually look at. And sure, now some people get to get a higher res version, but we're still going to do it on Instagram, and it's not going to be weighted because a lot of people look at photos on Instagram.
Yes, and Instagram votes. I mean, I have more followers on Twitter, but Instagram votes were definitely, yet again, about twice as much as Twitter.
Wow, I didn't know it was that much.
Yeah, it was about 3.5 million total votes on Instagram and about 2 million total votes on Twitter.
Yeah.
So
how many
as far
Flickr?
As like, I mean, Instagram is an image hosting website, so that's where you get it. I bet if I did it on a Flickr, we'd probably have about 1,000 total votes. So you could count them, but they wouldn't really sway anything.
No, not
So there you go. Well, yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. Big congrats. Shout out to the Galaxy Note 10 for fair and square pulling off a win and beating, in the finals, its same exact camera brother, literally because of, you saw the video? It's because of the color of the phone. I was at a promo event for RetroTech, so I was like figuring out who was winning during the last couple hours, and I was like, all right, it's going to be Samsung versus Samsung. I'll just take some random photo because it's the same camera. It doesn't matter. I took it through a window, and the reflection of the pink Galaxy S10e cast a little magenta in the bottom half of that image, and people picked up on that and actually voted for the one that didn't have magenta in it. So good job, guys, who were voting, and y'all picked Galaxy Note 10. So shout out to the Note 10. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we'll hop back in to the Smartphone Awards. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Netgear. Is your Wi-Fi feeling old? Does it buffer while streaming? Does connecting to new devices slow it down? Can it not really handle gaming or video calls or large file transfers? And what happens when you try to do it all at once? It doesn't matter how fast your internet connection is if your Wi-Fi router is old and outdated. So with Orbi Wi-Fi 6 from Netgear, your Wi-Fi will feel new again. Wi-Fi 6 is the latest tech that allows more devices to connect and stream simultaneously without impacting speed or reliability. The result delivers the fastest Wi-Fi for all of your devices anywhere in your home. So stream in HD, 4K, or even, maybe 8K without buffering, eliminate lag while gaming, and connect more devices to your Wi-Fi than ever before. Orbi Wi-Fi 6 is like upgrading your Wi-Fi to first class. If you're ready for Netgear's best Wi-Fi ever, you can get it today from Netgear and never worry about Wi-Fi again. Check out Orbi Wi-Fi 6 at your local Best Buy or at netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. That's netgear.com/best Wi-Fi. And we thank Netgear for sponsoring the podcast. This episode is brought to you by Cash App, the #1 finance app in the App Store. So you probably know Cash App is the easiest way to send money to your friends, but Cash App does way more than that. Cash App also comes with the Cash Card, a free debit card that comes with boosts, which are like instant rewards for shopping at the places you love. And you can get discounts off your entire purchase at places like DoorDash, Whole Foods, Target, and way more. And Cash App is also the easiest way to try and grow your money with their new investing feature. So unlike investing tools that force you to buy entire shares of stock, Cash App lets you instantly invest as little or as much as you want. So this way you can still own a piece of any stock with just $1. Brokerage services are provided by Cash App Investing, a subsidiary of Square and member SIPC. I'm also excited to be working with Cash App to support one of my favorite organizations, Team Trees. So when you sign up for Cash App and use the promo code Waveform, not only will you receive $10 instantly, but Cash App will also donate $10, so the equivalent of 10 trees, to the Arbor Day Foundation, whose goal is to plant 20 million trees around the globe by January 1st, 2020. Now, they just reached their goal, as you might have seen, but why stop there? $10 for you, 10 more trees for Earth, win-win. So don't forget promo code Waveform when you download Cash App from the App Store or Google Play Store today. All right, welcome back. So the Smartphone Awards 2019.
Yeah.
Always a fun one. So this is our awards. I started this back in 2014 with a couple phones on my desk and just telling what my favorite phones of the year were, and it's slowly evolved year over year into this like video. It's like this recap, this big grand recap. It's so much fun though, of the entire like every category of phone that came out this year. And we did it again in 2019, and it was I'll just go ahead and read to you right off the top all of the winners of each category, and we're going to sort of descend into each one. And we did a little fun polling thing on Twitter that we'll get into, but here's the winners for 2019. Best big phone, Asus ROG Phone 2. Best compact smartphone, Samsung Galaxy S10e. And every category, by the way, has runner-ups, not honorable mentions.
Honorable.
Best smartphone camera, iPhone 11 Pro and 11 Pro Max. Best smartphone battery, Asus ROG Phone 2, 6,000 mAh battery. Best, or we just call this the Design Award, Samsung Galaxy Fold. Best budget phone, Redmi K20 Pro. Biggest bust, Google Pixel 4. Most Improved Award, Asus ROG Phone 2. And MVP, Smartphone of the Year, OnePlus 7 Pro. So now that I've gone through all that list, you've probably had your thoughts, of course. And I go through like the reasoning for every single one of these in the video, and then we have our runner-ups, and there's also new reasons for the runner-ups, and we sort of detail each category. But that's surface level where we're at. Yeah. So I feel like everyone's sort of calibrated in. So because this has turned into so much of a community thing, of course, everyone else has their own different picks and different choices for their favorite smartphone of the year, and everyone has their own unique perspective, too. I'm a person sitting at the desk with all 38 phones in front of me, and other people have had certain phones they really like. So because of that, we get tons of responses and tons of comments, and everyone has their own reasoning why maybe it should have been a bit different. Maybe we should have had a different winner here or a different honorable mention. I think there are some pretty big snubs, and I kind of look at it the same way you might look at maybe like NBA All-Star voting, which is like just starting up right now, but like there's always going to be snubs. There's always going to be people who barely get in and obvious favorites. But from that, we actually polled you guys on Twitter, from the Waveform Twitter at WVFRM. And we, of course, have some comments from other videos and Reddit, too, about some legit different ways this could have gone. So we'll go through the categories and look through them.
We wanted you guys to pretty much argue with us because I mean, hey, it's fun and I get it. People think things should have won, and we're here to defend our choices and possibly agree with you and possibly disagree with you.
Now, I'll caveat this on the top of all of it. These are all my personal picks, and you could probably sway me about some honorable mentions. I think I have a biggest snub, and we'll get into those and see what other people say. But it's my show, so I'm giving the awards that I feel the strongest about. So I think I nailed it, but we'll see how you feel, and we'll see how everyone else feels. All right, so first category was Best Big Phone, Asus ROG Phone 2. This one, I gave the runner-up to Galaxy Note 10 Plus, and I could see how anyone would be swayed that Note 10. I think if it did win, that would have been maybe the third year in a row it won Best Big Phone. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it was Note 8, Note 9,
Yeah, but I think ROG Phone 2 cleaned up. It had every single thing you could ask for, short of a stylus, and put high refresh rate on top of that, high refresh rate OLED, and it has to beat Note 10.
And kept the headphone jack. I think Note 10 losing headphone jack, I still think ROG Phone has more features. Losing the headphone jack on the Note 10 was like a big downside this year that a lot of people were pretty upset about, and it's hard to lose something when the phone's so big already.
Here's another thing. I was originally really hot on Notes winning the Best Big Phone because they also historically have done the best job of software for big features. They were some of the only ones and some of the first ones to do like split screen apps. So when the Note was younger, they were really leaning into like, look how big this screen is. You can have 4 apps open at once. You can multitask like crazy, use the stylus to do whatever you want. And I was like, there's no doubt this is the best big phone experience. They're giving you everything here. But this year, it sort of leaned back into hardware. And if you look at the spec sheet, Snapdragon 855 Plus, 12 gigs of RAM, 120 hertz, 6.3-inch OLED, dual front-facing speakers, underrated. You don't see that a lot anymore. And, all this other gaming stuff, 6,000 milliamp hour battery.
That is like, to me, I have a big phone and I want it to last forever.
Yeah.
And like 6,000 milliamp hour battery is just absolutely crazy.
It's 2 times some other phones that came out this year. You got a terabyte of flash storage, you had all this other stuff. So I think it didn't have quite as much software features as the Note. It doesn't have a stylus, clearly. But when you put all that hardware together with a headphone jack and a huge battery, it's best big phone for me.
Yeah, and that's nothing against the Note 10. The Note 10's incredible, but Asus knocked it out of the park this year with that phone, and I think it deserved it.
Here's my biggest snub of the year, I think. I think if this was because I think it could have been in this discussion. Samsung Galaxy S10, and in this case specifically S10 Plus.
Okay.
And this will be a recurring theme because they were like right on the brink of a lot of these. It's not quite as good of a big phone as the Note.
Yeah.
And I'll bring it up again later, but I think S10 Plus was going to feel like a pretty big snub in some of these categories.
Yeah.
So just bringing it up now. We'll come back to it.
Cool.
But did anyone have any big disagreements with this category?
For big phone, no. I think it was anyone who disagreed with it thought Note 10 Plus.
Okay. Well, there we have it. 2 best big phones of the year right there. All right, so the next up category, best compact smartphone. And I had Galaxy S10e as the winner for that, and our runner-up was iPhone 11 Pro. So where are we at on that?
All right, so someone named Sam had a response to that, actually.
Let's hear it.
Let's play it.
So I think the iPhone 11 Pro should have won the best compact phone since it is a small phone in relative terms, which is kind of the criteria. I don't know how the S10e would have won when iPhone 11 Pro has better specs overall, as well as better cameras. Well, depending on the blind smartphone test, that might not be true. But anyways, I feel like iPhone 11 Pro was robbed for best compact phone.
Okay, yeah, I think that, and we're going to see a lot of top 2s for this as a theme, but I could be convinced iPhone 11 Pro could be best compact phone over the S10e, but it's interesting when you say specs, because you have the A11, which I'll give the edge to the iPhone, but you have more RAM in the Samsung phone. You have a bigger phone and is it a higher resolution? I have to double check on resolution, but you have a bigger screen in a small phone on the S10e. You have a bigger battery on the S10e, and you have expandable storage on the S10e, and you have a headphone jack on the S10e. So does the iPhone really have better specs? I'd really say it just comes down to experience, though, and the iPhone 11 Pro is a full-on flagship. Like, it has all the cameras and everything.
That's the hard thing sometimes, is to compare experience through iOS and Android, because that can get down to really, really relative to the person who enjoys it.
Yeah, for a lot of people, the iPhone 11 Pro is obviously the better choice because they're in that world and they're in that ecosystem, and that's why it's got runner-up too, is because it's such a good option. So yeah, I'll say you could convince me iPhone 11 Pro, but I really liked a lot of the little subtle things Samsung did with the S10e. The fingerprint reader on the right, on that button, like on the smaller phone where it's reachable and super fast, that was dope to me. So
that was great.
Little stuff like that. So also, yes, it did happen to get to the finals of the blind smartphone camera test. So yeah, that's your top 2 for sure.
Yeah.
All right, next up was best camera. This one, I don't think you can sway me. This one,
it's fine because I don't think anyone argued.
Okay, yeah,
honestly.
I'm a lock for this one. iPhone 11 Pro, runner-up being Pixel 4, and I gave honorable mentions to Huawei Mate 30 Pro and the Note 10 Plus for winning the blind smartphone camera test. But overall, iPhone 11 Pro took a really solid jump up with photos this year. Now, Pixel did, in my opinion, take sometimes better photos. Like, I'd prefer the photo from the Pixel side by side with the iPhone, like, pretty often. But I would gladly take a photo from each if I also get, in addition, an ultra-wide, a better mic, and significantly better video, 4K 60, like all the stuff the Pixel didn't do in the video world, the iPhone crushed it there.
Yeah.
So I think I remember in previous years, I would give out a winner, and then I would also give an honorable mention for video. I think I just wrapped it all up this year. Like, the iPhone is just a better camera now in every way.
Yeah, I think we've discussed a lot since we've gotten the Pixel 4 and the iPhone 11 in-house. It's just like, now the camera is, sometimes iPhone does better in this scenario and sometimes Pixel does better in that scenario. So like, the camera stills are pretty much even. I know you prefer the Pixel a little bit, probably because the pictures it takes are the pictures you like better, or what it excels in.
Yeah.
You like better. Yeah. So like, for you, that's a better still photo. But now that the stills are better, and then iPhone is just light years ahead of
miles
of
ahead.
Pixels, it was the obvious winner.
Yeah, the video world you have to take account of, and that ultra wide. I even think if the Pixel had an ultra wide, which I would have loved to see, it still would have gone to the iPhone for video. So yeah, I think that's a pretty unanimous one there. iPhone 11 Pro is the smartphone camera of the year for 2019.
Yeah.
So then we move to best budget phone. This is the hardest one for me.
Obviously the hardest for everybody. I feel like this was the most we've gotten of it should have been this, it should have been that. Or
okay.
I mean, like, and on through we have a couple of videos that people sent us.
Great.
Most of them are agreeing on the same thing, but this is one where people on Reddit and on Twitter are like, this should have been it, this should have been it, this should have been it.
All right, then let's hit that. So I have Redmi K20 Pro as the winner and Pixel 3a as the close runner-up.
Yeah. So let's see. First we have...
I'm assuming most people are going to try to convince me that Pixel 3a should have been the unanimous winner.
Very much so,
okay. All right.
What is going on, Mr. Marques Brownlee? Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is John. I've got a small tech YouTube channel. Every year, I give a smartphone award to a qualifying smartphone that makes it a best buy of that given year. This year, I gave it to the Google Pixel 3a because Google and Best Buy work together to leak the phone and make it available at affordable prices all year round at Best Buy stores. I think you can get the Pixel 3a $100 off if you have Sprint. That deal's been going on for a long time. Nonetheless, this is a $399 phone with an awesome camera and great software features. This is why I gave it the best buy of 2019.
Did you say Best Buy collaborated with Google to leak the phone?
Yeah, I wasn't really sure about that part.
Interesting.
But,
okay. Anyway, I just want to say right off the top, a lot of, especially with price, what I talk about is bias towards the launch price.
Yeah.
And so, yes, the Pixel did launch for $399. And he mentioned it was working with Sprint to give, I'm sure they had some deals where you could trade in or you could pay it over time and it would be less expensive. But I'm just generally going with Google's launch price of $399. And we had the Redmi K20 Pro launching for a rough equivalent of about $300. Mm-hmm. Here's what I'll say, because I didn't say this in the Smartphone Awards video, but a big part of the reason why I weighted the K20 Pro over the Pixel 4 is not just $100 cheaper price, which is a 66% difference.
Yeah.
But it's a better performer.
Okay.
And this came from the specs they chose to use and the choices they made. So this was a little bit of a higher end chip, some more RAM, and it was a bit of a more responsive phone. And the Pixel obviously went with a lower end chip, higher end camera, and they sort of skimped a bit on build quality. And build quality, not as important to me.
No,
some people might like, the glass on the K20 Pro more. But really, it's just the Pixel was not a very fast phone for a lot of people. And that's fine. It's a fine phone. It's not fast. But the K20 Pro for $300 was actually a pretty good performer. Not the best camera, clearly, but decent enough.
The K20, like, in hand, and if you were walking around with it, would, like, feel and look more like a flagship phone because of 3 cameras on the back, a glass back, and everything about it just felt like you weren't spending $300. It felt like you were spending $700, where the Pixel 3a it's plastic and it's slower. It's not bad. It's fantastic. And like, honestly, I would probably pick that over the K20 if I were personally buying a phone, just because I like the camera and I like that stock Google.
Yeah, that's a great question. Which one would I personally buy if I only had, $400 to buy a phone? That's actually a tough one. I'd be swayed a little closer to Pixel, but I still think the reason I like K20 Pro, it's basically just mimicking a high-end flagship phone, and it's doing the best possible job of it. Another one I included, I had some honorable mentions, OnePlus 7T, which was like right in that middle ground of $700.
Yeah.
But also the Motorola One Hyper, which did the same thing. It has this full screen display, huge screen, pop-up camera, like nice back, and it's really just mimicking as best as it can like a really nice high-end phone with a flashy design. Like that's what they're trying to do. So K20 Pro got really close, did some really good stuff in that $100 lower price. And of course, they both go down over time, but that's my justification. But of course, people like their Pixels, and I think I understand that software experience is really important.
Hello, this is me replying to what you posted about Twitter. I think that your most affordable one was wrong. I think that it should have been, well, you said that they're really close, but I think that the Pixel 3a should have actually been the one, because even though the Pixel 3a is more expensive, I think it's a better quality. It's a better price for what you get with it. I think it's a better quality and more a phone that more people will go to than going with the Redmi.
Got it. I think a lot of this is going to be like almost personal preference, similar to the way the iPhone could have won in a previous category. If you value camera, this is easily the best quality camera you can get for the money. Like it's the Pixel 3's camera, but it's half the price. So he's right about that. So I'm with you on that, and thank you for that submission. But yeah, I think if you just want to use the overall quality word, you have to think about hardware quality too. And Pixel 4's hardware quality wasn't quite as good. So yeah, it's all the factors. But there are also personal decisions where you wouldn't necessarily always want to use the winner. That's the funny part. I wouldn't necessarily want to pick the winner of some of my categories as the phone I choose over another phone.
But you have to respect the decisions they're making that got them to be the top of that category.
Yeah, I think for more people on planet Earth, Redmi K20 Pro is a better buy.
Yeah, but we are also biased towards the US, where I bet you in the US, obviously Google's 3A is going to sell
absolutely
far better.
Yeah, so I'll asterisk that, and I'll say the Pixel 3A for more people in the US is probably a better buy.
For sure.
But if you're just going for straight value and consider all of planet Earth, where Redmi killed it this year in value, you have to look at K20 Pro. So I think if you're in the US, go ahead and switch those two. So it's interesting. So you would take the Pixel, I'm assuming, over the K20 Pro if you were buying one of the two?
Yes, and that's most likely due to bias of using past Pixel devices and liking
True.
my...
You being a Pixel guy right
Yeah.
now? Okay, so what if, I'm going to give you an imaginary phone.
Uh-huh.
Both at $400.
Okay.
Would you take a Pixel 4a that had a great camera and terrible performance? Not that it's terrible, but would you take that? Or a Pixel 4a with great design and performance, but the camera takes a step down? So you're looking at like an iPhone level, like really nice, shiny hardware, and they do something cool with like the fingerprint reader under the glass or something crazy, but the camera's not clearly best in class anymore. So it's not a Pixel, but it's also $400.
Is this great design feature solely? Because if it's that, I'll take whatever the other one is.
It's not Project solely, but I feel like this is a choice Google isn't necessarily trying to make right now, but it's an interesting variable to consider.
Yeah, I think I would find it very surprising if they ever took a step down in cameras, because
True.
camera is easily what's pulling Google up right now, and that's
Software.
what's keeping them in. Yeah, that and software. So like, as long it's gonna have a nice camera and it's gonna have a good software experience, I would probably still pick the camera.
The camera
If
one?
it was $400, I mean, I don't need super gimmicky stuff. I don't care that it looks and feels like a flagship, but I think some people do. Some people are like, hey, there's all these people around me that have these flagship phones, and I want to also have one, but I'm in a situation where I can't afford that. So I think that's where Redmi comes in, or those phones that are designed to feel like flagships and then spec down a little bit.
Yeah.
That's where those come in great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I would pick the camera just because I can deal with something a little slower. And then I would probably use it for a week and be like, I made the worst decision ever.
It's so slow. All right. Well, let's go to the next category, which we have best battery, Asus ROG Phone 2. This was, again, a hands down for me. I've used a lot of phones over a lot of different time and a lot of different versions. And I also gave my honorable mention to the fastest charging phone, because I've always sort of included that in the calculus for best battery. But, OnePlus phones having dash charging and Oppo phones having VOOC charging. The Oppo Reno Ace had Super VOOC 2.0 65-watt fast charging, which was this insane, like 0 to 130 minutes type of deal. Love that. But the 6,000 milliamp hour battery on the ROG Phone 2 dominated. It was it was just, I could use it for 2 straight days in 120 hertz, and if I turned it down to 60 hertz, which a lot of other flagships are 60 hertz.
Yeah.
So it sounds like bad that I have to turn it down, but when you turn it down to 60 hertz, this phone just goes forever.
Yeah, I think there was someone who said, oh, you have to turn it down to get all the good battery life. It's like, no, you don't have to turn it down. You're easily getting a full day at 120 hertz, double the refresh rate of most phones. But say, you're going out for the weekend, you're not coming home, you get to where you're going and you look in your bag and like, oh man, I forgot my charger.
There's no charger,
Yeah.
no problem.
Whatever. I'll bump it down to 60 hertz, which is still the same as every other phone, most phones out there.
Think of it this way.
I'll make it.
Think of it this way. If you could have, people were pointing to like iPhone 11 or Note 10 Plus. Think of if you could turn that phone up to 120 hertz. How insane that would be.
And have a 6,000 milliamp hour battery.
It's just in another class.
Yeah.
So that was a no-brainer for me, ROG Phone 2. And then I gave my my honorable mention to iPhone 11. And, or I guess that was my runner-up, was the iPhone 11, the longest-lasting iPhone. Really close with iPhone 11 Pro Max at this point, because they've included the iPhone 11 Pro Max got like a several-hour boost in battery, and the iPhone 11 got an hour boost in battery, but it's still been better in my experience. And then you have the super fast-charging phones. So all those phones together, good stuff.
Yeah, I think the only other argument, and I have a rebuttal to that, is that the ROG Phone 2 doesn't have wireless charging. And that should be part of the battery award, and I agree it should be. The thing about wireless charging is it's convenient to like top off at parts in the day. I'm somebody who uses wireless charging and I wouldn't want to go back off of that, but I don't need a wireless charger if I'm guaranteeing it's making it through the day every single day. I'll plug it in at night. That I don't need to just lay it down at night. I can plug it in, but it's when I have to plug it in at my desk and in my car and here and there. you don't with the ROG phone.
Right. And I mentioned this actually in the ROG phone review. It changed the way I use phones. In a normal range for a phone battery, I'm constantly thinking about, all right, does it have wireless charging? All right, I can top it up at my desk. Or, oh, I'll just put it on the wireless charging pad at night. And I have this fast charger in my car. So, I combine all these things and I can go all day. The ROG phone doesn't have wireless charging. It doesn't even really have very fast charging, but it just didn't matter.
Yeah, it
just doesn't matter. I start the day with 100%. And I ended at 77, and it just straight up doesn't matter that I don't have wireless charging. So, wireless charging is normally a part of the calculus, but when the battery is so big that it doesn't matter, then
you can
just
neglect
wins.
that part of it completely.
Yeah. So there you have it. So that brings us to most improved. And the most improved winner with its third trophy of the night was the Asus ROG Phone 2. Yeah. This one, I think you could convince me of any other phone winning. This was like the most random one, I think. No real huge winner. Okay.
I compare this super similar to last year, where everyone agreed with us. Razer Phone 2 made big steps from Razer Phone 1 and won most improved. I think what people aren't doing is looking at they're seeing something wins an award. That's a phone that's not super widely used compared to Samsung, Apple, Google.
Everyone's got to be one of those, huh?
Yeah. So it deserves it because last year, I remember going over ROG Phone the first ROG phone. We were like, "Wow, these specs are great," and there's a lot of really cool things about it. And then the minute we used it, and we're like, "I just don't know. I don't think I could use it."
Yeah, Zen UI kind of held it back.
Zen UI was
a little
bad.
over the top.
And then Asus listened to what everyone said, and they put pretty much all of that while keeping their vision of this gaming phone. And then they come back out. They ditch Zen UI. They give us a 6,000 milliamp hour battery. They give us it was 120 hertz last year, but this year it's 120 hertz OLED, which is the first one we saw in any phone, which is amazing. They kept the headphone jack. They listened to what they wanted, and it made the biggest jump from last year. I think some people, I know Viper mentioned it, argue that the iPhone 11 was a good jump from the iPhone XS, and it was, but I think the ROG Phone 1 was so much further down than the XS, and then jumped to the ROG Phone 2, which is amazing, whereas the jump from XS to 11 was much smaller.
Yeah, and so think of it, when you think of most improved award in sports, what do you think of? You think
it
of
doesn't get given out as much. I know we play a Frisbee league called McCuddle, which is just like a summer league, and they usually do most improved. And it's usually someone who was like a rookie last season that spent their entire off season practicing nonstop and came back the next year and looked great.
Wow, you look nothing like last year, man.
Yeah.
You're killing it.
And that's what this was. The Asus makes phones, but ROG Phone was our new phone. That was their first step at this gaming phone or whatever.
Yeah.
They saw what happened to it, just like Razer did the year before. They reached out and asked for what people wanted differently, and they took that advice and they actually changed it. Could you imagine if Pixel 4 did that this year?
Oh, man. Man. Yeah, when I think of most improved player in sports, I think of basketball a lot. I think of the guy who is coming off the bench, sixth guy, seventh man, who comes back the next year like Pascal Siakam and is just a dominant player suddenly. And you're like, he changed a lot. He clearly listened to coaches and he got better, and now he's an impact player. And I think when you look at my runner-up was the iPhone. Yeah. And it's tough because a lot of times you'll see a great player make a big improvement, and he's an even more dominant player, like iPhone XS to iPhone 11 Pro. Major battery gains, major camera gains. How can you not give it most improved? But that guy was already a starter, and he's still a starter, but now he's having more impact. But I don't know, when you look at someone who came off the bench, the ROG phone was just not an option for most people last year, and now suddenly it's the best big phone and the best battery you can get. Those huge improvements, I think, are what pushed me over the top. So, I think I could be swayed, but that's where I was at for most improved award.
That, to me, is one of the most obvious awards. I think it's so hard. I remember when the first ROG phone came in, and there was someone from Asus here talking to us about it and why they chose Zen UI and how it is better than all these things. Yeah. And then they make that decision after they hear all these things that the fans disagreed. That's a big step.
You know what I want to see? What? Because they didn't ditch Zen UI. They gave you the option to choose one or the other. I would love to see, if they have the numbers, what people chose.
Yeah.
Where does that percentage?
Super interesting.
That'd be interesting.
This phone is something that I think is just going to get better and better, and I think I think with a couple other changes, it could actually be a phone we're seeing a lot of people using soon.
Early candidate for most improved 2020.
This is how it could win 2020.
The same ROG?
Yeah.
Okay.
ROG Phone 3 could win 2020 if it gets IP rated.
Okay.
I like want it to be closer to bezel-less, but I don't want to lose dual front facing
Keep
speakers.
the speakers.
Okay.
Yeah.
The design.
They got to tone that down to sell to more people.
Okay. Here's my theory on that is really, really cool computers now are going the clean look.
Oh, they're selling to the... Okay.
RGB is becoming less and less of a thing, and I think it's becoming more of like super clean, all the same colors and everything matches. If they just did a real like Razer Phone 2, a really nice glass back with the ROG logo is awesome, and that could just glow different colors, and then you could also add wireless. So IP, wireless charging, cleaner design.
Okay. And a nice camera, please.
Yeah, I mean,
It was one of the worst.
If it could somehow come into a nice camera, then that easy 2020 most improved.
Yeah, if you gave me the ROG Phone 2 right now with the iPhone 11 or the Pixels camera, I would use that phone right now.
Yeah.
That's how much I like it. So give me the software updates. I'm into it. So next up was the Design Award. And this one changes every year. It means something different. Is it the best build quality? Is it the best industrial design, the least breakable one? Clearly, it's not the least breakable one. I gave the Design Award to the Samsung Galaxy Fold. And the reason is because I think it's the most important design. Obvious caveat here. People broke it.
Yeah.
But these people did not buy the phone. This was reviewers who got it in the couple of days where they were sending out the first wave of units, and then they started to break, and they sent them back, and then they made some improvements, and then shipped it a couple months later as the first legitimately, I think, good to go, you can buy this today folding phone. I would not buy the Royal Flex Pi. No. I wouldn't even buy the Huawei Mate X right now in a lot of places, especially in the US. So Galaxy Fold folds in half, has a 7-inch screen in your pocket. This is also a candidate for most improved because there's tons of things you could nitpick about it, but I love the risk Samsung took here, and I think it's the most important phone of 2019 because of its design.
So you're saying that innovation is part of the Design Award?
Innovation and just risk-taking in design, basically.
Okay.
Yeah. And I gave my runner-up to Galaxy Note 10, the smaller Note 10, which is really nice. This is another one where I think you could say Galaxy S10 and S10 Plus were snubbed because those were also really, really nicely designed phones in pretty much all the same ways as a Note 10. Yeah. So Samsung's just filling up the design chart.
We had a couple of responses for this one.
Go for it.
Yeah, Marques. Hi, Andrew. Best wishes for the season. And I just wanted to say that, you've already placed the award so nicely. But I have a suggestion. I think the Design Award is equally, belonging to Samsung Galaxy S10 or the S10 Plus. In the world of notches for 2018, they came up with a notchless. We can say notchless design. It is equally beautiful, and that's my say. Peace.
Yeah, biggest snub for sure. Galaxy S10, S10 Plus, and you're right. Also, it came out earlier in the year, and they were pretty expensive, but they were among the first to do the hole punch that the Note later got. And if you asked me to buy an S10 Plus or a Note 10, I think I would buy the S10 Plus because I just take the bigger battery and I don't need the stylus.
And the headphone jack.
So if you're talking about biggest snubs, I'm kind of with you. I probably could have replaced my runner-up of Note 10 with Galaxy S10 Plus. I like that.
All right, so we had another response with a different suggestion for winner of this.
Oh, okay.
So let's see what you think.
Hey Marques, hey Andrew. Good job you guys on the smartphone awards. I'm wondering if maybe in the design category we can give a special nod to the Zenfone 6. Fair to say nothing else really looked like it this year. Handled the notch in a unique way, and the Galaxy Fold is a hell of a phone, but I think this deserves an honorable mention. What do you guys think?
Yeah, interesting. So Zenfone 6 had this swiveling camera at the top that flipped around and gave you the high-quality camera as a selfie camera. I think it could have gotten an honorable... I think a lot of phones could have gotten honorable mentions, but this one for me was only held back because it was just such a big phone. It was really bulbous. And again, you can make a laundry list of complaints about the Galaxy Fold's design. I think
Yeah.
it's sort of exempt because of the uniqueness of it. But I'm not against Zenfone 6. I think this is also one of the bigger snubs. I think I would have loved to have had a different bracket for the smartphone camera test, knowing how good it is. I also think about whether or not I would use that phone in general, and I think it was just a little big and a little bit clunky feeling, but I do appreciate the way they attack the notch in a different way. Maybe if it was a bit smaller.
Yeah, I think they attacked the notch really well, and we saw that those cameras did do well in the test. So the fact that then I get that as a selfie, and there's also this like super niche, you can control the camera and like take a panorama or something. Like someone might be able to do something really interesting with that. But yeah, it's a different way for the notch. Everyone always worries about moving parts, but everything we've tried, it seemed totally fine. I don't see any issues with how it did it, rather than just a little pop-up camera.
Yeah, so at the beginning, if you take Galaxy Fold out of all of this and you just had to say, what's the best designed phone of the year? That was a really tough call because you're like, all right, I don't think I can pick something that just got rid of the headphone jack. I don't think I can pick something that has a huge, ugly notch, right? I got to do something that doesn't have that. Okay, so we're at where I get... So then you're in the world of like moving parts of like pop-up cameras and swiveling cameras, and none of them really broke, so I guess that's fine too. I think I have more confidence in the pop-up camera than the swivel to not break, but maybe that's just me. I look at the Samsung stuff, and they kept it pretty good. OnePlus 7T, if it had a less ridiculously terrible-looking camera bump, I think could have been considered too. Just a teardrop notch, and it's a flat. So there's a bunch of possible considerations for like literally just best designed phone.
Yeah.
I think people would have hated iPhone just because like the stovetop on the back and the huge notch and the same design for the past 3 years isn't going to cut it for design award.
Should have won it.
So yeah.
I do have to say, and you mentioned moving parts before and pop-up cameras, like it was definitely something everyone was very nervous about at first, and I'm really glad to see. I don't recall any big news articles or anything saying that there's a broken after X amount of time, so it seems like they're all holding up really well. Way better than the original folding part of the Galaxy Fold. Because it's just one of those things where you see those tests done by a machine in a lab, where you saw the Galaxy Fold folding and you saw the OnePlus selfie camera opening a million times. You wonder in everyday use how that'll hold up, and it seems like all these moving parts have held up really well. Yeah,
conceal them the best you can, and hopefully they don't get any debris in them. So there it is. Speaking of debris, Bust of the Year. We arrive at the one negative award we give every year. This one was Pixel 4, and I did give an honorable little runner-up there. But the Pixel 4 won the Bust of the Year. And are there people who disagree with this one or no?
There are a lot.
Oh, really?
I don't think we have time to put all the videos in for this, so we might put one or two in.
Okay. Well, I mean, this one was just the delta between the expectations and the deliverable.
I have a lot to say about this. As a Pixel 4 user, I have a lot to say about this.
Well, I want to hear it.
I mean, first of all, I would say I persuaded you very hard to make this Bust of the Year. I think you originally had something else in mind.
I had the FlexPi as my winner for Bust of the Year.
And I tried very hard to change your mind. And actually, I didn't think you even did. And I remember the trophies came in. I went, oh, you gave it to Pixel? And I was like, it deserves it. Fair warning, the Pixel 4 is a fine phone. If you have the Pixel 4 and you're enjoying it, you should enjoy it. It's fine enough.
Yeah. In terms of the two phones that I used the most in like the last couple months of the year, basically it came down to like, okay, I need higher refresh rate. It's clearly come down to this. Between ROG Phone 2, Pixel 4, and OnePlus 7T Pro. And I kept coming back to Pixel because of that camera. I've been using the Pixel really often. It's clearly not a bad phone. But performance started to go down on me, and I'm just so done with dealing with that. So I was back to OnePlus 7T Pro.
Yeah, it's like people see Bust of the Year and they think it's going to be this complete garbage phone, which is like, that's what the FlexPi was. It was terrible. And
it's what the Hydrogen was last year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, well, the Hydrogen performs better than the FlexPi, at least. Like,
true.
It performed. The
FlexPi is truly the worst phone we've seen in a long time. Yeah. But I'm curious what people's let's
go in. All right, so here's someone's take on why Pixel should not have been Bust of the Year.
What's up, MKBHD? My name is Armand, and I think the bust of the year should have been the Royal Flex Pi. It was absolute garbage phone. The hardware was horrible. The software kept glitching out every time you fold it, and it was just so big and clanky. On the other hand, the Pixel had an amazing camera. Even though the telephoto was great, still had a pretty great camera. The screen was much better than the last one, and the software was pretty good, and the hardware was pretty good. So I think the bust of the year should have been the Royal Flex Pi.
So I feel like after I watched that video, I came up with kind of like an analogy of why we picked Pixel 4 as bust. This is bust of the year, not worst phone of the year.
Right.
So when you look in sports, you would never, like, people call players busts all the time. Young players.
Like the number 2 draft pick that never
like
even
4
scored.
years later is like getting benched some games and not, or healthy scratched. So you would never call a player a bust if they were picked in the 10th round. So like,
which the Flex Pi is not like a first round pick.
The Flex Pi wasn't this like crazy advertised phone that we were all like, oh my God, here's a folding phone. This is going to be amazing. We saw it at CES. We heard like, oh, they have a folding phone. Let's try it. And the minute we touched that thing, we were like, oh,
CES.
Oh, Lord.
That's what it was. That phone was perfect for CES.
Yeah.
Look what we made. We're not going to sell it, but like, check it out. Phones can fold someday. And you're like, oh, neat. And then they put it on a shelf. You're like, whoa, wait a second.
So like, nobody had expectations for Flex Pi to be good.
Fair.
You can't bust if no one ever thought you were going to be good in the first place. Whereas the Pixel, you get all these rumors, and it's hard to like blame Google that they didn't live up to rumors, because we're at the point where so many people put out so many fake rumors about things that it's just, you're expecting
a holy grail of a phone.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not going to happen. But like, we see the Pixel 4 and it was just the most meh response ever, to the point where I feel like they even took features away. We go back to the fact that we lost unlimited full res photo storage. Mm-hmm. We lost our super wide angle selfie. We don't have portrait mode in wide anymore. I mean, I still like the notch better than the forehead.
That's a bold statement right there.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about that before in here, and I think you agreed with me, actually.
Yeah.
But like, instead we got Soli, which I was actually really into Soli at first. I was like, I think this is a great idea, not for like the swipe features, but for the fact that when I go, it makes Face ID faster, or Face Unlock faster, and it makes like turning my alarm off better. Now I can't stand it.
That is actually, that's a little underrated. I think Soli, or this Face Unlock, is actually the one thing that was actively driving me away from the Pixel. Is like, I just wanted like a quick, like a biometric, just let me unlock it like when I want to. I remember I get out my car sometimes and I just grab my phone and my backpack in one hand, and I would like touch the screen as I do that, which would wake up the phone, and then I would look at it and it would unlock, and I'd just start pressing things as I was taking it out the car. And I just wanted like a normal unlock experience, and you know, I could do the pin and everything and keep turning it back off, but I switched away from it and I really don't miss it.
Yeah, I have like 2 examples of why Soli makes me furious. So
let's just start bashing Pixel 4.
It's pretty much, I mean, we're arguing our pick here. And
yeah,
like,
right.
So I have my wireless charger set up to the top left of my keyboard at work and at home. There's so many times where if I reach for like the escape key, I guess I go in Soli's little dome.
Oh boy.
And it goes, oh, hey, someone's trying to unlock this. And then it like kind of lights the screen up, and then I catch it out of the corner of my eye and I look at my phone, and now my phone's unlocked.
It's unlocked.
I'm like, so then I have to lock it again, or it's just going to be on for a while. And then the other thing I've had is in my car holder, which is like right over my radio in the middle of my car.
Okay.
I've had it be unlocked before because Lord knows I
just
probably
is.
looked at it, or if it's connected to my Bluetooth, it's like smart trusted device. I've reached for like a water bottle in my passenger seat and it skipped my song before.
Whoa.
Like, it's just all these things that
oh man,
make me not very happy about Soli. And the
It's
way
funny.
it's
funny because when I try to like swipe on purpose, it like sometimes doesn't work. The funny part is like, you're right. The commenter, like, the Flex Pi is a worse phone.
Yeah.
It costs more. You should never buy it. But I think that argument that we're sort of leaning on is like the delta between your expectations which they may come from hype, or they may just come from like, hey, at the beginning of the year, what are the best phones probably going to be? The iPhone, the Samsung, and the Pixel. So we're talking like top 5 draft pick at least.
Yeah.
And when it turns out to really not live up to that $900 price tag, that's when we're considering it a bust.
Yeah, there are people that this phone will be great for, but it's so much harder to recommend to the average person, mostly because of battery life. Some people say they get great battery life out of it. Yeah. I don't. I would say most times I put it on my charger at night, and I go to bed pretty early, and it stays on a charger almost all day. I'm at like 20%. And that's sitting on a wireless charger for a long time.
Yeah.
That's really hard to suggest. It's just, I don't know. The 90 hertz thing was what I was so excited for, and I still don't even consider myself on a 90 hertz phone. I don't force it because my battery life isn't great, and I just don't really feel like it's 90 hertz at all.
Yeah, it's really a very often 60 hertz phone, but hey, there you have it.
Yeah, it was supposed to be. That's why it's a bust. It was supposed to be top 3.
You know what this opens the door for?
Yeah,
Most Improved Award 2020, Pixel 5. I'm just saying.
I hope, like, with every bone in my body, I hope Pixel 5 is most improved.
Yeah.
I want this phone to be good so bad.
All right. Well, that was the title of the hydrogen review, and we saw what happened. So, anyway, let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and get fired up and talk about OnePlus 7 Pro being the MVP, and we'll probably have some talks about that too.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a quick break. This episode of Waveform is brought to you by Honey. So giving holiday gifts is great. Overspending on all those gifts is definitely not. So why spend more than you have to? Finding the lowest price is easy if you have Honey. So Honey is a free web browser extension that automatically finds the best promo codes wherever you shop online. So this means you always get the best deals without even trying on over 20,000 sites such as Amazon, eBay, Expedia, Target, Best Buy, and more. It's almost a given that you ordered something online this month. Ever wonder if you could have saved a few bucks on that? Maybe wonder if you got the best deal? Or you ever have that moment where you get something and then realize you could have saved 20 bucks on it? With Honey, you don't ever have to worry about that anymore. You might even save enough to possibly buy a few more gifts next Christmas, maybe save some money and treat yourself. Honey has found its over 10 million members, over $1 billion in savings, and Honey supports over 20,000 stores online. And Honey has over 100,000 5-star reviews in the Google Chrome store. So if you're buying gifts this holiday season, then you need Honey. If you're not, then you probably know someone who is, so do them a solid and tell them about Honey. Honey can also make sure that you're getting the best price for whatever you're buying. It's free to use and installs in just 2 clicks. So get Honey for free at joinhoney.com/wave. That's joinhoney.com/wave. All right, welcome back. Let's talk MVP.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is always fun.
This is always probably the most, I don't want to say controversial, but this is the one everyone cares about. It's the big trophy, literally. So this is the one that gets the most fire. I just want to start by saying the MVP, and this is sort of what drives this whole conversation, is not necessarily the best phone for everyone, because there is no best phone for everyone. It's not necessarily the best overall phone. And I draw a lot of parallels to this in the way I think about it, actually from basketball again.
Okay.
And just at any point during the season, there's like 3 or 4, probably more, great arguments for an MVP. And that could be, best player on the best team. That's Giannis right now. Or it could be perennial all-time great player. It could be LeBron right now. It could be who's historically hot right now. That's James Harden. Like, you could make a great argument for all of them. So in this case, I have OnePlus 7 Pro as my MVP for 2019. And of course, there are going to be great arguments for others, but that I think I'm prepared to defend.
Okay.
And I think you're going to have some.
I think there's a lot. Do you know what? Actually, before we get into people disagreeing with you, one place that seemed to agree with you almost unanimously on this, I'm sure there's a few people who didn't, was Reddit. So Reddit doesn't always agree with us. And the R Android subreddit, which is what I was looking at this on, is generally kind of all over the place, because when you see Android versus Apple, that's like pretty specific. Like, Apple likes Apple because of Apple things.
Right.
Android doesn't just like Android because of Android things. Then you have your subcategories in Android of the different phone companies.
There's a subreddit for every phone.
So the Android subreddit itself is normally crazy, but so many of the top comments agreed that they thought OnePlus was like OnePlus 7 Pro was one of the best phones this year, if not the best phone. So just the fact that this is a place that generally doesn't always agree with us, and they took this video really well. They thought all the explanations were great, and that all of them could see why it got picked.
Yeah, good variety. So, but I could easily see, like, and I'm sure we'll have plenty, but a variety of opinions about others that could just as easily be considered an MVP.
There's always going to be.
Should we jump? Well, here's what I'll give my explanation for why I chose it right up the top, and then we'll go to see what people say. So here's why I picked OnePlus 7 Pro. First of all, performance, and you get all the great stuff on paper. Obviously, OnePlus 7T and 7T Pro came out later in the year. But just as far as setting the tone for the year about what they were going to do, you got Snapdragon 855, you got, I think it's 8 gigs of RAM, an 4,000 milliamp hour battery, you got dash charging, and it's missing like some of the things like a headphone jack and wireless charging, like people always like to bring up. But the performance of Oxygen OS on that phone and the user experience was A+. The notchless display, a little bit annoying that it was curved on the edges, but I thought that was an excellent display, 1440p, pop-up camera. The cameras, and this is something I always say, I'm trying to keep things about like where they appear on launch.
Yeah.
And they were like decent to okay cameras, but they were the worst part of the phone. But they have gotten a lot better with software updates. And then the price. And so this launched at $669, and 90 hertz was the real separator for me. So it became very obvious over the course of the year that you basically have high refresh rate or not, and that was like a big part of why I either liked the phone or didn't. And since it's my awards, this is like one of the big things that was playing into my consideration for MVP. So
I mean, that's big, but like you say like 90, I know you don't mean it, but you're saying it like 90 hertz is the only reason it won. It didn't. The specs that this $669 phone has are the same specs that $1,000 phones have.
It was all around A1. Like everything they did was either A or about to be A, like B to B plus.
It's actually funny. People said, how did OnePlus 7 Pro not get a runner-up or honorable mention in any category, but
question.
then win the overall? And if you kind of look at the categories we have, like the ones winning the camera, those are like, especially the Pixel, that's like kind of a one-trick pony at this point.
Well, just go through the categories. It's not going to be best in class in best big phone. It's not huge. It's not going to be the best compact phone. It's not compact, right? It's not the most improved player. They've sort of had their thing for a couple of years.
Yeah.
The design, I think, is one place it could have stepped up and maybe gotten an honorable mention.
Yeah.
Having a fully bezel-less type of look and not having a notch and the pop-up camera and everything. But it sort of felt pretty standard, and the camera hump on the back was fine. It didn't really stand out to me. I think you could have given it an honorable mention, but I chose not to. So, yeah, the categories were really about spikes in those places.
Yeah, it's kind of like in the car sense, like not a lot of Hondas or Toyotas are really blowing your mind, but when it comes down to like, I'm going to spend this amount of money.
Overall
and
package.
Overall, it's a car that's going to last me forever, and I'm always going to be confident in my buying decision. That's what the OnePlus 7 Pro felt like.
It's a Prius. Okay, so no, that's definitely not a true statement.
Complete opposite. Yeah.
But let's get into disagreements because I know there's some others. Also, I had some runner-ups, so I'll just toss those in there. I had iPhone 11 Pro. I had Samsung Galaxy Fold. I think that's it.
Okay, that's what we said in the video. Yeah. We've been talking a little bit. Let's go into what should we go into first? What people said, or other phones that people think got snubbed.
I want to hear arguments for other phones that should have won.
Okay, let's go into a video first.
Okay.
This is from Viper. He's posted a lot about this. This seems to be his most concise argument, so we'll go over this one.
Let's hear it,
He's
Viper.
talked in a lot of different other ways, but we don't have time to go over literally everything.
All right, let's hear it.
So Marques wants to know why the OnePlus 7 Pro is the smartphone of the year in 2019. Where do I begin? Maybe I could begin with the suspect battery life, or the mediocre camera in comparison to its competition, or the lack of wireless charging, or the fact that it is priced so dangerously close to the iPhone 11 that the iPhone 11 runs circles around the OnePlus 7 Pro.
Okay, so it sounds like he's saying iPhone 11 should have been phone of the year over OnePlus 7 because of its shortcomings?
I think, I don't know if that's exactly what he thinks should have been. Also, he says phone of the year, but it's MVP, most valuable. So I think that right off the bat is a big distinction to make. It
almost doesn't matter what you call it. Like, I call it MVP, but it's also the smartphone of the year. Like, it doesn't really matter what you call it as long as you have
MVP takes into account price and worth
that too.
Being worthy of the price. Plays a little bit into it more than phone of the year, where phone of the year, I feel like you don't really think about price. It's just flat out what's the best phone.
Phone of the
I think
year.
that argument comes a little differently when you can add $1,200 phones onto it.
Sure.
But in terms of value. So it seems like if he's honoring value at a $30 higher price tag with the regular iPhone 11, not the Pro versions, he thinks it runs circles around the OnePlus 7 Pro. So I think that's the main part of his argument here.
Runs circles around the OnePlus 7 Pro. Okay, so I will give the iPhone the edge in the A11 department because that chip is notoriously incredible. But is there any other way that the iPhone runs circles around? Camera. That's great.
Camera's the biggest gap between the two, I think.
For sure.
We've always known that with OnePlus. The thing is we say OnePlus is an okay camera. Okay is still really good in 2019. Like, okay is still all that most people really need. So, like, if you're really getting down into the nitty-gritty, like 4K 60 FPS video or maybe better portrait mode and stuff like that, then the iPhone might be better. But the OnePlus camera is not bad. It is just not as good as Pixel.
I'd say today it's a B+. But here's what I'll give the two reasons that I'll disagree with Viper. One is why I can't give MVP to iPhone 11. Okay. And two is to address his other points. Okay. I can't give MVP to iPhone 11 because of the display. And there are I'm going to be biased and just love pixels and love displays, and you got to have a nice screen for me to enjoy using the phone, so I just couldn't give it to the iPhone 11 for that reason. Big notch, just not a great all-around display for me.
LCD 800p.
Yeah, just not a lot going for that screen. And number two, he said suspect battery life was his word choice on that. I don't have any problems with the OnePlus 7 Pro's battery life. It's a 4,000 milliamp hour battery. And you are going to use a lot of power using a 1440p 90 hertz panel, but then also dash charging comes in and was a big part of why I didn't have any problems with the battery. So I'm not going to say that that's anything I would hold against OnePlus 7 Pro. And then he said, wireless charging.
Yes.
Wireless charging is one of those things that is a nice to have for me, but not necessary. And I think we went over this when we talked about the ROG phone, where like certain phones could definitely benefit from it, especially with not great battery life if you just top it up all the time. But I can't really, similar to the headphone jack, I can't really say it's necessary for me to call it MVP.
So here's what's interesting to me is his argument, I think, can be taken and swapped around. His argument right now is that OnePlus still doesn't have wireless charging when it should have wireless charging, because to him, wireless charging is something that's very important. To you, high refresh rate is very important.
Big deal.
And iPhone doesn't have high refresh rate.
Big deal.
But it does have wireless charging. So like, you can't say, hey, why don't you have wireless charging? You don't get to win. When you could say, why don't you have a higher refresh rate?
Yeah,
you don't get to win.
And you can. Like, I'm sure Viper is a big fan of wireless charging, and that's why he wants the MVP to have it. And there are a bunch of great phones this year that did have it. But here's what I'll say: the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro, they are the fastest, smoothest 60 hertz phones. So they're really right at the top. They have 120 hertz refresh layer of touch sensitivity. So when you move your hand across the screen and move it back and forth, it's responding at twice as fast as a typical 60 hertz display that's refreshing the touch layer at 60 hertz. So it's the smoothest 60 hertz phone, but there's just something about those 90 hertz and 120 hertz phones that consistently feel smoother and faster. And I would say the whole running circles around it part is just negated. It just doesn't feel that way when you have a higher refresh rate.
I think yes, but there's also other reasons. In terms of running circles, I just thought I'd pull up a spec sheet. Now, I know specs aren't everything.
All right, so just numbers here.
Okay, yeah, just pure specs here. We're going to kind of go back and forth, see if any of these are, which is better, which is running circles, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so A13 Bionic versus Snapdragon 855.
Okay, both the highest end at the time, but advantage Apple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, storage. I'm pretty sure this is base storage. 64 versus 128.
Right, so double the base storage, advantage OnePlus.
Yep.
Sure.
Camera, there's numbers here, but I'm not going to read them because we all know Apple is much better.
Are they both 12 megapixels, I think?
Both cameras on Apple are 12 megapixels. Then OnePlus goes 48, 16, 8.
Oh, right. Yeah, advantage Apple with the cameras.
For sure. I would say that's the biggest place where it, quote-unquote, runs circles around it.
Yeah, an A+ camera runs circles around a B camera, B+ camera, if you want to say that, sure. But, advantage is what I'd call that.
Battery, we have 3110 milliamp hours versus 4000 milliamp hours, but you've had more experience.
This is a classic, like, numbers don't matter as much stat, just like megapixels. The iPhone, I'd say the iPhone 11 has better battery life than the OnePlus 7 Pro, despite that having a bigger battery cell. But you also get wireless charging on the iPhone. You also have dash charging, fast charging in the box on the cheaper OnePlus. So, again, no circles being run at this point, but I would say advantage Apple.
Okay. So so far, we're 4 specs in, and 3 of them are to Apple so far?
Right.
Cool. Next is we're going to go to display, and I'm just going to kind of lump the whole display together.
Well, yeah.
So it's a 6.1-inch LCD 800p notched display.
With bezels.
Yeah, with bezels on the side.
Yep.
Versus a 6.67-inch notchless 1440p AMOLED 90 hertz.
It's not close. That's running circles.
Yeah, that's running
circles. Okay.
That is just on a whole nother level.
Yeah. So advantage OnePlus.
Okay. And then RAM, 4 gigs versus 6 gigs. That's base.
That's about the same. If you're talking about like equivalent on an Android phone,
yeah,
that's about the same thing.
I'd call that very close.
Both phones were launching around $700. So iPhone 11 launched at $700, $699, and OnePlus 7 Pro launched at $669. I think those phones are pretty much even as far as like experience and what you're getting for the money, to which point it comes down to iOS versus Android. What is better for you?
Yeah.
No way I can answer that for everyone viewing this, but I don't think any one of those phones is obviously a better buy than the other until you consider what's valuable to you.
Yeah, I think both of these phones, especially at that price range, if we're talking about value for MVP, are both super valuable, super worth it phones to buy in 2019. But to say that you can't see why the other phone is worthy of that is just insane to me.
Yeah, listen. Okay, I'm going to just break it down to the simplest reason why OnePlus 7 Pro was phone of the year. Software experience. So I'm talking Oxygen OS, Android
Your
10.
phone of the year also.
Sorry, OnePlus 7 Pro is my phone of the year.
Okay, yeah.
For me, I value things like camera, display, performance, and software. And this phone was great at all these things. It had a pretty good camera. It had great software experience. Oxygen OS, I think, alongside Pixel, is about the best Android gets. But then you also have 90 hertz, and you have the optimization OnePlus has put in there. It's the fastest, snappiest feeling phone. And so having that for the money right off the bat is awesome. Then you have a pretty great battery life. You have dash charging. And then you have, on top of all that, the low price. I don't see any phone being better for me for that.
Yeah.
And it's my award show, so I'm biased. So yeah, there's going to be other people who would have different MVPs, but that's where I'm at. I'm kind of interested. I would be shocked if nobody thought like iPhone 11 Pro Max should have been MVP because it's just the best phone.
I think there are people that think that. Actually, Viper probably thinks that as well. I think there are people who think that, and I think it's a great argument. I think he just wanted to bring it down into the value aspect of it.
Okay, sure.
And like compare something closer. I think him and some other people I've seen have said that they don't think the OnePlus 7 Pro is even in top 5 phones of the year. And they think that's
tough, man.
I don't want to put too many words in their mouth, but I'm pretty sure from one of the videos I read or watched said it was an easy choice to not even put that in top 5 of the year.
Okay, for my NBA fans, I'm going to assign MVP candidates to current NBA players. How about that?
Sure.
So,
I won't understand any of this.
Okay, that's I'll explain it a little bit.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so the iPhone 11 Pro is LeBron James.
Okay.
Right. He's the best player in the world. He has been the best player in the world for years.
Mm-hmm.
He had a little bit of a decline last year, and that's when everyone swooped in and decided to make arguments that he's not the best player in the world already, but he's the player of the decade. The iPhone's the player of the decade. It's easy to make an argument that LeBron's the MVP, just like it's easy to make an argument that the iPhone 11 Pro is the best phone. So I accept that. Okay, then I'll go to something like the Galaxy Fold. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go, this is hilarious. I'm going to go, James Harden is the Samsung Galaxy Fold. He's kind of breaking the game right now, no pun intended, where like he's historically great at a couple of things, which are getting to the free throw line and making and shooting a lot of three-pointers, and doesn't really worry about the other things. And to me, this Galaxy Fold being like the first phone that's going, okay, you know what, we're folding it in half. This is a new concept, a new idea. We'll see if it works. And the fact that it's off the ground and working is amazing. James Harden, you can make an argument right now, is the MVP. Leads the NBA in scoring by a mile.
And then chokes when it gets released or hits the playoffs.
Possibly, exactly.
That's all I know about that.
He gets to the playoffs, which is releasing the phone, and it's a little bit different, a little shaky, but that's another one. Then we'll go Galaxy Note 10 Plus is Giannis Antetokounmpo. This dude, 6'10", absolute freak, massive, great use of space, this guy. He's getting to the bucket no matter what. He doesn't really have a jump shot, meaning he's not playing as well as smaller players in certain areas. But if you just want the best big possible, just get a Giannis, man. Just get an ROG phone or a Note 10. That's Giannis.
Okay.
So that's a legit argument too. And then I'll go one more, which is going to be, I think I can weirdly assign the ROG phone to Luka Doncic right now because he's young. And the ROG phone 2 is the second phone they've ever made. And they're kind of young and they're kind of new to it, but they lit it up on the spec sheet. And if you look at Luka across the numbers, dude's averaging 30 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. He's leading a team into the playoff picture that shouldn't be there. Suddenly, Asus got 3 awards this year.
Yeah.
So Asus ROG Phone 2, that's Luka. You can make a real argument he's the MVP right now. And I couldn't really strongly disagree. Like, yo, LeBron runs circles around Luka. Like, well, they're both incredible. Like, there's no real obvious choice for MVP, which is why it's just going to come down to my own values and what I like as a player and who I like watching. So I'll say OnePlus 7. Let me pick a player now. For the OnePlus 7 Pro, so you're looking at more like a speedster. You're looking at more like a Steph Curry type when he was like the 2015-2016 unanimous MVP version, where like, again, he's just faster than you. He's going to beat you in a certain couple of ways, and maybe he's not the strongest, and maybe he's not posting people up or anything like that, but he's got a couple things he does really, really well and is clearly valuable for his team, and what you get for the money, because he's being underpaid, is definitely worth it. So there's my argument. There's my MVP collaboration. I don't even know what to call that, but that's what I'll say is my justification. There are several MVPs that are legit awesome players, but I'm picking my Steph Curry 2015-2016.
I think we definitely totally understand that there are other people who think there's a smartphone of the year out there, but it shouldn't be that much big of a surprise that was your pick, and it's totally worthy of being in that conversation, which some people apparently don't think it is. But anyways, let's go. We have one other person on Twitter who said something about MVP. Actually, 2 more.
Hey Marques, Happy New Year. Thanks for giving us this chance. I just think that a phone which doesn't have the best camera or is not among top 2-3 of this category should not be the MVP of the year. And that's it. Cheers, mate.
Plain and simple. I like it. You got to have a top camera to be a top MVP candidate. And that is a great point. And I think a lot of people would agree. That is sort of similar to the argument, like, you can't give Giannis the MVP if you can't shoot. I would argue you got to have higher refresh rate to be an MVP. And that's just my, again, bias is a word I like to use, but like that's just what I value in a phone. I think the OnePlus 7 Pro camera was pretty good. And I think a lot of people just like, I think I said it's the worst part about the phone in my video, which made people think it's like bad, but like it's really not that bad. So yeah, that would be my counter argument is, hey, you can win MVP without a jump shot. You can win most valuable phone of the year if you have higher refresh rate. You don't necessarily have to have the best camera. Yeah,
so you're looking at the things that you value, which is also pretty crazy to me. And I think people watching this, knowing you're such a camera person and a pixel peeper and all that, they're assuming you're going to pick one of the best cameras out there. Right. But I think that just speaks more to how great the user experience is on OnePlus 7 because you are someone who wants to have the best. I've watched you multiple times switch between, like, try the Pixel 4 again because it has a great camera. And then I just, a couple days later, watch you swap your Sims back out. So you have to pick kind of what is going to feel the best to you. And if that part that's lacking, as long as it's not lacking enough that it ruins the rest of the experience, it's fine. Like you're going to make your sacrifice for the OnePlus 7 Pro. The sacrifice is the camera, but it's not that big of a sacrifice.
Yeah. If you could put the absolute greatest camera, if you redid the red hydrogen and it had the greatest camera any smartphone had ever seen, incredible photos and videos, but it had like a 30 hertz display and like it was like the trash the rest of the user experience, I couldn't use it as my daily phone. Like I'd really not be able to keep using the rest of the phone all the time. How often are you taking pictures versus how often are you looking at pictures, scrolling through Instagram, emailing, and like calling, texting, all this other stuff you do on your phone. So that's where I'm at.
All right. So we have one other person who has a different suggestion for MVP, or at least an honorable mention, and we kind of talked about this phone before, so let's give him a shot and we'll respond.
Is in the smartphone awards is that why wasn't the Galaxy S10 Plus considered the winner or even an honorable mention for MVP of this year? Comparing with the OnePlus 7 Pro, both of these phones now are reduced in the price, but the S10 Plus has more features. It still kept the headphone jack, it still has expandable storage via micro SD, and it has the capability of having fast wireless charging and reverse wireless charging. So I'm interested in your views and points, and yeah, Merry Christmas.
100% Merry Christmas. I'm with you on Galaxy S10 Plus snub of the year in like pretty much all the categories. It sat there on my desk, didn't win anything, but I think was a bit overshadowed by the Note, like because of how similar they are.
Yeah.
So he's right. So this phone has wireless charging, reverse wireless charging, if you're into that, has, I would say, slightly better cameras than the OnePlus. But it also launched at $900, $850,
so.
$900.
It is tough to say both have been reduced in price because
Right.
we don't like to take that into consideration. But
Right, but it is true if you're going to like literally pick which one to buy, you should consider that. But again, I think if Samsung's phones this year had high refresh rate, we would be having a totally different picture as far as
I
these
forgot
phones.
I forgot to ask that question.
Yeah.
So just going back into like phone of the year or MVP, whatever, if the iPhone 11 Pro or the iPhone 11 or the Note 10 had 90 hertz.
Had 90 hertz?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'd love those
that's the
phones.
winner.
I would
Yeah.
love those. I would be using probably the Note 10 right now if it had 90 hertz. Yeah.
So like OnePlus 7 Pro instantly gone if one of those has higher refresh rate.
I don't know about instantly gone, but
Okay.
that's such a big factor for me. So like you look at, so that phone was, the Note 10 Plus was $1,100. So at that point, I'm looking like you gotta have higher refresh rate for me to even think about it at that price. If you go down all the way to Galaxy S10 and you have high refresh rate and you have all those other things and it's $800, and I think that's a phone you definitely consider for phone of the year.
Yeah.
And you know, I did give an honorable mention to the iPhone 11 Pro without high refresh rate. I gave Galaxy Fold for the design an honorable mention, but I think that's really the theme of this entire hour and a half is I really like high refresh rate at the expense of some other things, because that overall experience gets that much better when your refresh rate is 50% higher and even double with the 120 hertz. So yeah, I would say Galaxy S10 Plus snub of the year, but I'm crossing my fingers for higher refresh rate stuff from Samsung because they made the panels.
That would be awesome. And I mean, Samsung screens have always just looked like the best.
They've been best in
they're
class
incredible.
displays. Yeah. So there we have it. So what have we learned? If we wrap this whole thing up, you know what? I will say this: everyone's got different values. I've probably said this exact thing before, but everyone
probably
has
in
different,
this podcast.
Yeah, probably already today. Everyone has different values about what they actually really like in a smartphone. So for my awards show, I gave my winners based on what I valued. We had some design stuff, best big phone, best small phone, all that stuff. I think if you listening to this had your own personal smartphone awards, you could make a very legitimate argument for 7 totally different phones. You could have a different bust of the year. You could have a different big phone, different small phone, and you'd be totally right. And that's the beauty of it, is everyone can have their own set of values and line up things on a chart based on those values. And I'm just glad everyone got to participate a little bit and talk it out.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So hopefully we get to do this again next year, because the blind smartphone camera test gets that much more interesting every year, and the smartphone awards gets that much more hype every year. So I am fully ready for 2020 to be the year of the high refresh rate iPhone, the most improved Pixel, the all these other big small phones all getting better, and maybe some more phones fold in half.
I'm looking forward to a couple gaming phones coming out and maybe making more of a stay in the smartphone market. I would love to see a Razer Phone 3 from improvements they did from 1 to 2, and I would love to see an ROG Phone 3.
Yeah.
Both of those coming out, and they're, like we've said in both of the reviews, they're proving that specs from gaming phones are what a lot of just enthusiasts want, even if they don't want to game on it. And I think if they can take that next step into being just a little more mainstream with the specs they're offering, we could have some really, really cool phones.
Yeah. I'm excited. We should just rebrand those as media phones. Anyway, okay. Well, that's about it. Hey, thanks for listening. Thank you for tuning in on Twitter. We'll catch you guys in 2020 with the next episode of Waveform. There's, of course, a couple of videos left on the channel for the rest of the year you should check out, too. But this has been Marques.
And this has been Andrew.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, Happy New Year, everyone. Waveform Podcast is brought to you by Studio 71, and the intro-outro music is brought to you by Cameron Barlow.